There are moments when life pauses and heaven itself seems to whisper, "Begin again." This Christmas is one of those moments. The failures, the regrets, the missed chances, they are not the end of your story. They are the soil from which your purpose will bloom. You have carried the weight of what you could have been for far too long. Every silent night you've spent wondering if it's too late was preparing you for this one truth. Life has not given up on you. God has not withdrawn his favor. You are being shaped for your return. Do not mistake delay for denial. Sometimes the doors that closed were not rejection, they were protection. You were not being punished, you were being prepared. And this Christmas, the preparation ends, the rebirth begins. Look around you, the lights, the quiet, the cold. Everything outside you reflects what must happen within you. A stilling of noise, a surrender of fear, a moment where you finally stop running from who you were meant to become. For years, you've told yourself the same story. I'll change next year. I'll try again when I'm ready. But readiness never comes. It is born the instant you decide. And tonight, that decision stands before you like a doorway only faith can open. You are not reading this by accident. You were led here because the life you once dreamed of has been waiting, patiently, quietly, faithfully, for you to wake up and claim it. The second chance you prayed for has already been written in your name. Understand this. God does not waste pain. Every setback, every sleepless night, every tear was his method of stripping away everything that did not belong to your higher purpose. You lost what could not stay so you could receive what cannot be taken. You will soon see that what looked like endings were instructions. What looked like failure was direction. And what you called loss was love disguised as discipline. This Christmas, heaven calls your name again, not with guilt, but with grace. So before the year closes, pause, be still, forgive yourself. Let go of the version of you that could not understand what this journey was building. Then rise, reborn, renewed, reconnected to the power that has been guiding you all along. This Christmas is not just another date on the calendar. It is your turning point. The world will continue to rush by, but for you, time slows. This is the moment where you choose to believe again, to step out of regret and into redemption. You have asked for a sign. This is it. The chance you thought you lost is waiting with open arms. The doors you thought were locked are about to open, and all heaven asks of you now is one act of courage, to believe that you are ready to begin again. This Christmas changes everything. Every man who has ever risen from defeat to destiny has walked through the valley of divine preparation. The average man calls it failure, loss, misfortune, but the wise man, awakened through understanding, calls it law. For nothing in this universe is wasted, and no suffering arrives without purpose. That which feels like punishment is often pruning, the trimming away of all that would hinder your growth. When a gardener cuts a branch, he does not hate the tree. He believes in its future. God, too, believes in your future. Each disappointment that once felt cruel was his method of clearing the soil. The soil of your spirit had become tangled with doubt, fear, and attachment. And as every farmer knows, soil must be broken before the seed can rise. Your trials were the breaking, the preparation for abundance. You have asked, why did this happen to me? And the answer is simple, because the life you prayed for required a stronger version of you. Every burden you carried built muscle in the unseen places of your soul. Those long nights of uncertainty were not proof of rejection. They were training for reception. Infinite intelligence prepares no man lightly for great responsibility. Think of Abraham Lincoln. Before he became the savior of a divided nation, he was a man who knew repeated loss, business failure, heartbreak, political defeat, and personal grief. Yet each loss removed weakness, carved humility, and refined patience. When the hour came that demanded courage beyond all measure, he did not have to find it. It was already formed through pain. Andrew Carnegie was no stranger to poverty. As a young immigrant, he worked 12-hour days in a factory, earning pennies. But in that hardship, he learned the dignity of labor and the power of organization. Without that early discipline, he could never have commanded an empire. His adversity was not a curse. It was the classroom of success. Thomas Edison, too, was schooled by what others would call failure. 10,000 times his experiments refused to work, but each refusal refined his process, hardened his faith, and clarified his purpose. He once said, "I have not failed. I have found 10,000 ways that will not work." Such speech can only come from one who sees divine order where others see chaos. I tell you now, the same law that prepared them is preparing you. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every delay was an appointment with wisdom. God removes what no longer serves you, not to diminish you, but to deliver you. The man who has lost much stands closer to gain than he realizes, for loss is only the clearing of space for greater gifts. You must learn to interpret your past differently. Stop reading your history as tragedy. Read it as training. Every fall taught you balance. Every silence taught you patience. Every failure taught you strategy. Your past was not a punishment. It was instruction written in the language of circumstance. There is a rhythm to divine preparation. First comes the breaking, then the lesson, then the harvest. The impatient man curses the first two and never sees the third. The disciplined man endures all three and calls them blessings. You are entering your harvest season now, but only if you acknowledge the value of what prepared you. Here is your preparation test. Take a sheet of paper. Write down the greatest pain you have endured. Next to it, write the strength it produced. If you lost love, perhaps you gained discernment. If you lost wealth, perhaps you gained wisdom. If you lost direction, perhaps you found faith. When you finish, read it aloud until your mind accepts the truth that nothing was wasted. Say with me now, nothing was wasted. Every loss was instruction. My life is being prepared by divine order. Let these words become your anthem. Speak them until your heart believes them. Speak them until guilt dissolves into gratitude. There is power in this acceptance. The moment you stop resenting your past, it stops controlling your present. Regret is energy trapped in yesterday. Gratitude releases it into creation. The man who thanks life for his trials turns every scar into strength. Delay is not denial. When the farmer plants his seed, he does not dig it up the next day to check progress. He knows the law is working in darkness. So too are your dreams taking root. What feels like stillness is simply the invisible work of preparation. When the time is right, they will break the surface. Understand this truth, and you will save years of self-pity. The man who believes his suffering wasted keeps himself chained to it. The man who sees divine order rises above it. You cannot move forward while resenting the ground you stand on. You must bless the soil before you can harvest from it. Every disappointment carved out capacity. Every heartbreak widened the vessel of empathy. Every failure dismantled pride so that purpose could dwell within you. God trusted you enough to refine you through pressure. Do not insult that trust by calling it misfortune. I have spoken with men of great wealth and those of great wisdom, and I tell you truly, their turning points were always moments of breaking. When man's own plans collapse, he becomes available for higher ones. It is only then that he stops forcing and begins flowing with divine rhythm. Perhaps you feel that life has taken too much from you, but hear me clearly. What was taken were only the illusions that blocked your power. The real you, the one designed for greatness, was never touched. It waited patiently beneath every layer of fear, waiting for this awakening. Let this Christmas be the moment you understand the meaning of every storm. Let gratitude replace confusion. Let faith interpret your past anew. The man who understands divine preparation no longer asks, "Why me?" but "What now?" He looks at his scars and says, "These are my credentials." He walks forward not as one broken, but as one built. The mind that grasps this law feels peace return instantly. The burden lifts, not because the past changes, but because perception does. What once looked like rejection now looks like redirection. What once looked like punishment now looks like partnership with a higher plan. You will feel an inner warmth as you accept this truth, as if light has entered where cold once lingered. That is not emotion, it is law responding to recognition. Gratitude activates grace. The universe always bends to the heart that thanks rather than complains. This understanding saves decades of wasted bitterness. It replaces guilt with wisdom, and wisdom with peace. You are no longer the victim of life, you are the student of it. Every experience has been your textbook, every mistake your teacher. Now that you have read the lesson of your past, it is time to release the weight of it. You cannot walk into renewal while holding on to ruin. Just as the farmer burns the old stalks before a new season, you must burn the regret that binds you to what was. Your next step, therefore, is surrender, not as defeat, but as cooperation with divine timing. When you stop resisting what happened, you create space for what is coming. And so we move from understanding to release, from divine preparation to divine surrender. For the law that prepared you now calls you to trust its process completely. There is a point in every life when striving must give way to surrender. It is not weakness that leads a man to this threshold. It is wisdom. For the mind that constantly resists life can never receive from it. The river flows only when it stops fighting the banks. So it is with man and his destiny. The moment he stops struggling against what was, he becomes aligned with what can be. The mind cannot receive while it clings. You have spent years grasping old disappointments, nursing wounds that have long served their purpose. Each memory you rehearse becomes a chain. You say you wish to be free, yet your hands still clutch the very bars that hold you. Letting go is not loss, it is obedience to divine law. When you release your grip on how life should have been, you open the door to how life is meant to be. Infinite intelligence cannot pour new wine into old vessels. The moment you surrender your old plan, a higher plan begins to operate. This is the law of renewal. Henry Ford once stood where you stand. He had failed several times before his first successful motor company. His friends laughed, his investors withdrew. Yet Ford released the bitterness that could have consumed him. He said, "Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently." That is surrender, not defeat, but cooperation with divine rhythm. You must understand this distinction. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. It is saying, "I trust that life knows more than I." When you surrender, you are not abandoning your dream. You are aligning it with divine wisdom. Pride says, "I will force it." Faith says, "I will flow with it." Consider the seed. It must die to its former shape before it can rise as a tree. It does not resist decay. It obeys transformation. In that same way, everything you lose is merely changing form. What you once called the end is often the beginning of new growth. Many men prolong their suffering because they insist upon controlling what only God can govern. Timing, outcome, other people's choices. The truly wise release these illusions. They labor faithfully on what is theirs to command, their thoughts, their actions, their faith. Everything else belongs to law. Take this moment to perform the quiet prayer of release. Sit in stillness. Write 3 things you are still trying to control, perhaps an outcome, a person, a fear. Beside each, write, "This belongs to law, not to me." Then fold the paper and say aloud, "I release the past. I trust divine order. What is mine cannot be lost." Burn or bury the paper. Let the act symbolize your surrender. You will feel lighter afterward. That is not imagination. It is liberation. You have unclenched the fist of your soul. For years, life could not fill you because your hands were closed in worry. Now they are open in faith. Understand that the universe does not delay out of cruelty. It delays until you are ready to receive without resistance. Readiness is not perfection. It is receptivity. It is the heart's quiet yes to law. When you are ready, what was meant for you rushes forward with astonishing speed. Do not mistake quiet for inactivity. Surrender is not idleness. It is spiritual alignment. It is the highest form of motion because it moves in cooperation with infinite intelligence. When you stop struggling against the current, you discover the strength of the current itself. Look at the greatest men of industry and spirit. Each one knew this truth. Carnegie yielded control of every minor detail to those more skilled, keeping only his definite aim. Edison surrendered sleep to inspiration, trusting ideas to arrive in divine timing. Lincoln surrendered personal ambition to moral duty, and his surrender saved a nation. The man who cannot yield cannot lead, for leadership begins in obedience to higher principle. The proud mind that demands control of everything becomes its own tyrant. But the surrendered mind, humble and faithful, becomes the channel of unseen power. When you release resistance, peace enters. It does not arrive as emotion, but as clarity. You suddenly know what to do and when to do it. Confusion is always the child of control. Wisdom is born of surrender. This is why faith is the language of heaven. It speaks only in trust, never in tension. Faith is not believing you will get what you want. It is knowing that whatever comes is what you need. The man of faith thanks life even for delay, because he knows the law works in perfect order. Do not fear what you must let go of. The things that leave your life when you surrender were never truly yours. They were lessons wearing costumes. What is truly yours cannot be lost. It is tied to your spirit by invisible cords. Every man will one day face the choice between resentment and renewal. Resentment locks him in the tomb of what was. Renewal opens the door to what can be. You must choose renewal daily, sometimes hourly, until it becomes habit. Each time you feel old bitterness rising, whisper, I release. Each time you feel anxiety, breathe and say, I trust law. The proof of surrender is serenity. You can measure your faith by your calm. The man who has truly yielded his burdens walks lightly even under pressure. He does not waste strength on what he cannot command. His energy flows entirely into creation. Remember the words, be still and know. Stillness is not silence, it is certainty. It is the steady awareness that divine intelligence governs all, and therefore all is well. When the mind stops fighting, it begins hearing. In that calm, intuition awakens. Ideas arrive without struggle. The solution that once seemed hidden now stands before you, clothed in simplicity. This is the divine reward of surrender. The most powerful souls on earth have mastered this secret. They do not chase, they attract. They do not demand, they decide. They do not beg, they believe. And because they trust law, law trusts them. Say it aloud. I release the past. I trust divine order. What is mine cannot be lost. Let this become the new rhythm of your thought. Speak it until peace becomes your default. Through surrender, you make room for divine renewal. Renewal is the rebirth of faith, the restoration of power, the return of vision. The old self, the one burdened by regret and fear, dies quietly. In its place rises the disciplined man who lives by law. Do not confuse rebirth with novelty. True renewal is not about changing everything around you. It is about changing the spirit within you. You could remain in the same house, the same work, the same city, and yet live an entirely new life because your inner state has changed. When the seed breaks open underground, nothing appears different above the soil, yet everything essential has transformed within. So it is with you now. Others may not yet see your rebirth, but the law has already shifted in your favor. God cannot fill hands still clenched in fear, but the moment you open them, miracles begin. Opportunities that were once invisible appear before you. The right words, the right people, the right moments align with uncanny precision. This is not coincidence. It is the law responding to surrender. The man who learns this law saves decades of anxiety. While others exhaust themselves trying to force outcomes, he moves gracefully through life, accomplishing more by faith than others do by frenzy. He spends no time doubting because he knows that law, once obeyed, never fails. You must also surrender guilt. Many hold faith in God, but none in themselves. They believe in divine forgiveness, yet refuse to forgive their own mistakes. This is pride disguised as remorse. To hold guilt after learning the lesson is to insult the law's perfection. Say to yourself, I did not fail, I was trained. Every error contained a seed of wisdom. If you have learned, you have already paid your debt. To punish yourself further is to resist grace, and resistance breaks the flow of renewal. You are being given a second chance, not because you are lucky, but because you are ready. Heaven wastes nothing on those unprepared. Every tear, every trial, every humbling moment was shaping the vessel. Now that the vessel is strong, it can hold the blessing. Surrender also means trusting timing. Some blessings ripen slowly because they must. If you received them earlier, they would crush you under their weight. Trust that delay is not neglect. It is cultivation. You are being seasoned for stewardship. Faith and surrender are twin forces. Faith believes that the future is safe. Surrender proves it. Faith sees the mountain moved. Surrender climbs it without fear. Faith declares, surrender obeys. Now that you have learned to release, you must learn to act. For surrender without motion becomes stagnation. Once the heart is lightened of resistance, the feet must move forward in obedience to inspiration. This is where faith transforms from feeling into force. You are ready now for the next principle, the law of faith in action, the law that transforms the calm of surrender into the creation of destiny. Faith, my friend, is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the unseen current that carries every dream from the mind of man into the material world. But I must tell you plainly, faith that does not act is but sentiment. To believe and not move is to speak to the soil yet never plant the seed. Action, disciplined and sustained, is the proof of belief. There is a sacred point in every man's journey where he must decide whether he will continue to wait for conditions to improve or whether he will improve them by his decision. The timid man waits for signs. The faithful man becomes one. Heaven favors the hand that moves in confidence. When you step forward, even with trembling feet, the path appears beneath them. I have known many who prayed for change but refused to act, hoping that the answer would arrive neatly packaged at their door. Yet infinite intelligence never rewards hesitation. Life is a partnership. God provides the law, but man must provide motion. The universe cannot steer a parked ship. Think of Thomas Edison. He believed with an unshakable conviction that light could be drawn from electricity. He failed not 10 times, not 100, but thousands. Yet each experiment was not despair, but dialogue. With each test, he asked law to reveal itself. His persistence was prayer in motion. When at last the filament glowed, it did not surprise him. It confirmed what he already knew. Faith plus action is unstoppable. Andrew Carnegie built his empire on the same principle. He was not the strongest nor the wealthiest at the beginning, but he had the faith to act upon a single idea, to organize men, to multiply their talents, to turn thought into structure. His faith moved through his factories, his leadership, his generosity. Men followed him not for his wealth, but for his certainty. Faith without motion is a pond, it soon stagnates. Faith expressed through action becomes a river, it cuts valleys through stone. When you act upon what you believe, you align with divine rhythm. The forces of nature, ideas, people, opportunity, begin to rearrange themselves around your decisiveness. It is not chance. It is law obeying command. Many believe they lack faith because they feel fear, but fear is not the absence of faith. It is faith pointed in the wrong direction. The overthinker has great belief, but belief in disaster. He imagines every failure vividly, rehearses it nightly, and wonders why it comes to pass. The law cannot distinguish between faith in success and faith in defeat. It simply obeys the intensity of belief. The cure is deliberate substitution. Replace every doubtful thought with its opposite declaration. When fear whispers, "What if I fail?" answer, "What if I prevail?" When the mind says, "I cannot," declare, "I will, for law supports me." This is not wishful thinking. It is the conscious redirection of spiritual energy. Write this statement where you can see it daily. It will happen because I have decided. Read it each morning until it no longer feels like words but law. Speak it aloud before sleep. The subconscious, ever obedient, will act upon it. Faith begins as repetition. It ends as reality. True faith acts even without evidence. The farmer who plants in spring does not see the harvest, yet he labors because he knows the season will obey the law. So too must you act, not because conditions are perfect, but because your purpose is. The man who waits for certainty will wait until the grave. The man who acts upon inner conviction turns uncertainty into order. I call this the step of obedience, the first act that proves belief. It may be as grand as beginning a new enterprise, or as humble as writing a long postponed letter of forgiveness. It does not matter what it is. What matters is that you do it without delay. Each act of faith, however small, sends a message to infinite intelligence. I am ready, and heaven responds to readiness. You must learn to think and act as if your success were already certain. The world yields more easily to the man who walks as though he has already arrived. That is why men like Ford, Edison, and Rockefeller seem to bend events to their will. They did not merely hope, they behaved as though the outcome were inevitable. The mind, impressed with certainty, attracts conditions that prove it right. Faith is the most practical of all forces. It is not mystical, it is mechanical. When you hold a definite thought mixed with emotion, your subconscious begins to translate it into its physical counterpart. This is why you must guard your belief with discipline, for one seed of doubt can destroy an entire harvest of effort. You may ask, but how do I strengthen faith when evidence seems against me? The answer is repetition and gratitude. Repeat your belief until it becomes instinct. Give thanks for the unseen good already on its way. Gratitude keeps faith alive during the unseen period between planting and harvest. There is another secret. Faith and imagination are twin powers. The man who can see his victory before it appears will always find a way to make it visible. Visualize the life you desire, not vaguely but precisely. How does it look? How does it feel? What does a day in that life contain? The clearer the picture, the quicker the law moves to construct it. Edison once said he could see his inventions completed in his mind before he built them. That is the true act of creation. Thought precedes manifestation, and imagination is the mold into which life pours substance. Hold the vision, act daily, never doubt. But let me warn you, the test of faith always comes after the declaration. You will speak your aim, and soon after, circumstances will arise that seem to contradict it. This is not failure, it is confirmation. The law tests every command to see if you will stand by it. When all seems uncertain, remember, the dawn comes precisely when the night is darkest. If you persist, something extraordinary happens. The mind begins to move without fear. You wake with purpose. You sleep with peace. You stop waiting for opportunity and start creating it. People begin to appear who mirror your faith. Coincidences multiply, doors open, and events align as though orchestrated by unseen hands, because they are. This is divine synchronization. When you move in faith, all of creation conspires to meet you halfway. It is not superstition, it is order. The same power that moves the stars bends to the will of the focused mind. Each step you take multiplies strength. Decision energizes, hesitation drains. When you act upon your belief, the universe amplifies your energy. When you delay, it disperses it. Faith and doubt cannot coexist. One must be dismissed for the other to flourish. Say aloud, my faith moves through action. I obey without fear. Each step I take multiplies strength. Let this be your declaration of motion. Speak it each morning as you plan the day. Each evening, recall one act that proved it true. In time, these acts will weave a rhythm of confidence unbreakable by circumstance. Faith is the architect. Action is the builder. Without one, the other remains incomplete. To think without acting is like drawing plans for a house but never laying the bricks. To act without thinking is to build upon sand. Unite them and nothing can prevent your success. Do not mistake small beginnings for insignificance. The oak begins as an acorn. The empire begins as an idea. Every stroke of your effort, however humble, is sacred if performed with faith. The carpenter who hammers with belief in purpose builds as nobly as the general who leads an army. It is not the size of the act, but the spirit behind it that determines its power. If you practice this law daily, you will notice how time itself seems to obey you. Things that once required effort will unfold with ease. The faithful man moves efficiently because he no longer wastes thought on fear. His energy, once divided among doubts, now flows entirely into creation. This principle alone can save 10 years of struggle. Most men waste a decade questioning whether they are worthy, whether the time is right, whether they have enough. The answer is always yes. For the law responds not to readiness, but to decision. Each day you delay, opportunity passes to another who dared. Each time you decide, the world rearranges itself to make space for you. Let this Christmas mark your decision. The season itself teaches this truth. Even the birth of light required faith. There was no sign, no certainty, only trust that what was promised would appear in its time. That same law operates still. Your new life will not arrive through worry. It will arrive through movement born of belief. Faith in action turns invisible hope into tangible order. It takes the energy of prayer and molds it into productivity. The faithful man does not wait for the miracle, he becomes it. His work, his speech, his demeanor, everything declares confidence. He becomes a living magnet for opportunity because he radiates assurance. The world admires such a man. Others sense his certainty and wish to follow him. Business aligns with him. Friendship supports him. Fortune seeks him. For faith expressed through motion is irresistible. It is the vibration of creation itself. Now pause for a moment. Reflect on where your faith has been idle. Where have you believed but not acted? Choose one step, small but definite, and take it within 24 hours. Make the call, write the plan, give the forgiveness. Prove your belief through obedience. That single step will ignite the entire chain of divine cooperation. Remember this eternal principle. Faith is not an emotion. It is law in action. Feelings fade, but decisions endure. When the feeling passes, act anyway. Discipline is faith without mood. And as you act, hold gratitude in your heart. Say, thank you that this law is already working. Gratitude seals faith. It completes the circuit between heaven and earth. Do not look for signs of success. Be the sign. Do not ask for evidence. Become the evidence. Your calm, your confidence, your consistency. These are the living proof that the law is operating. Others will see it in you long before you see it in results. Now that your faith has awakened and moved, you must sustain it. The flame of belief must be fed by rhythm, for without structure, even the brightest inspiration flickers out. The next law will teach you how to maintain your second chance through daily devotion and discipline, the rhythm that transforms faith into mastery. Let us move forward now to the law of ordered discipline, where faith becomes habit and habit becomes destiny. Faith alone can ignite transformation, but without structure it flickers. The greatest dreams collapse not through lack of power, but through lack of order. Discipline is the channel through which faith becomes form. It is the bridge between inspiration and manifestation. And the man who learns to govern his days by law becomes invincible, for he commands not only his time, but his destiny. The universe itself is disciplined. The planets move in rhythm, the tides obey the moon, and the seasons never rebel. Every force in creation yields to pattern. The sun does not rise by emotion, nor does gravity rest when weary. All order is law in motion. If you would live in harmony with success, you too must enter into this rhythm. Discipline is not restriction, it is power arranged. The weak man calls it burden because he has never tasted its freedom. The strong man calls it liberty, for he knows that order removes confusion, and confusion is the thief of peace. The disorganized mind runs in circles, exhausting itself in indecision. The disciplined mind moves in straight lines and arrives at results. When you first awaken to purpose, enthusiasm burns bright, but emotion fades. The fire of inspiration must be fed by routine, or it will die in ashes. Discipline is the keeper of that fire. It converts passion into persistence, dream into habit, and faith into certainty. Every man of greatness was a servant of rhythm. Carnegie began and ended each day in review, studying progress, setting aims, and thanking law for what had been done. Rockefeller, though commanding vast wealth, never began a day without writing his intentions clearly and measuring their completion. Edison was known to live by the clock, not for bondage, but for order. He treated each hour as a servant of invention. Discipline does not mean rigid control. It means conscious cooperation with law. It means knowing what must be done and doing it without delay. Emotion cries, "I don't feel like it." Discipline answers, "I will." And in that moment, power transfers from weakness to mastery. Faith gives direction, but discipline supplies momentum. A man with vision and no routine is like a ship with sails, but no rudder, magnificent in potential, but lost in current. The man with order, even with modest vision, will surpass him because he acts with precision. Let me give you a secret few understand. Discipline is divine devotion disguised as duty. When you rise each morning and give the first minutes to thought, gratitude, and planning, you are not performing a chore. You are communing with infinite intelligence. The world prays with words. The disciplined man prays with obedience. Begin now a practice I call the hour of dominion. Reserve one sacred hour each day for mastery of thought and order. During this hour, review your aims, plan your work, reflect upon your conduct, and give thanks for the day past. Guard this hour as a king guards his throne. For if you can control 1 hour, you can control the day. If you control the day, you will soon command the year. Let this become your vow. My order is my worship. My structure sustains my purpose. I live in rhythm with divine law. Speak it as you rise and as you rest. These words will recondition your subconscious to associate order with peace instead of pressure. Observe the law of rhythm in all things. There is a time for work and a time for rest. There is a pulse to every successful life, an alternation between motion and reflection, creation and restoration. The man who ignores rest burns out his lamp. The man who ignores work lives in darkness. Wisdom lies in balance. Discipline begins in the mind, but expresses through action. Start with small victories. Make your bed with purpose. Organize your workspace before labor. Review your goals before decision. These small habits, repeated, carve channels of precision through which larger forces flow. The man who cannot govern small acts will never command great ones. Do not despise repetition. Every law of success is born in repetition. The pianist does not master melody by inspiration, but by practice. The blacksmith shapes iron by rhythm, blow upon blow. Likewise, the soul shapes destiny by rhythm of thought and deed. Routine is the invisible artist behind every visible masterpiece. Fatigue and discouragement are illusions that vanish before rhythm. When you feel weary, it is not work that weakens you, it is disorder. When you know exactly what must be done and why, strength returns. Confusion drains energy, clarity restores it. That is why disciplined men can labor longer with greater calm. They waste no energy deciding whether to act. They act because decision has already been made. Many say they cannot find time for order, but time is never found. It is formed. Each moment takes shape according to your definiteness. The undisciplined man lives as a slave to circumstance, reacting to every demand. The disciplined man designs his time and lives as master. Set boundaries for your attention. Every interruption is a thief of power. Guard your focus as a banker guards gold. Say to every distraction, "This does not serve my purpose." Even a few minutes of deliberate stillness each day will multiply your mental energy. Your body, too, must serve the rhythm of success. Regular sleep, measured food, and moderate recreation are not luxuries. They are laws. The mind cannot think clearly when the body is neglected. The man who respects both spirit and flesh walks in harmony with himself. In discipline lies serenity. You will notice that as your days become structured, your emotions quiet. Worry fades, for there is no longer room for chaos. Peace is the byproduct of order. Those who say they seek calm must first seek control of their time. The greatest power of discipline is that it trains the subconscious to work in your absence. What begins as effort soon becomes instinct. Just as the body learns to walk without thought, the mind learns to plan, to persist, to complete tasks without resistance. At that point, order becomes your second nature. The indisciplined man envies luck. The disciplined man creates it. When he acts in rhythm with purpose, opportunity aligns itself with him. Life rewards reliability. Chance favors the prepared. To maintain discipline, you must measure progress. Review each day, not as judgment, but as study. Ask, what did I accomplish? What did I neglect? Where can I improve? Write brief answers each night before rest. This reflection closes the circuit of learning, ensuring that each day contributes to the next. Remember, discipline is not perfection. There will be days when rhythm falters, when emotion clouds clarity. Do not condemn yourself, simply return. Order forgives quickly when you obey again. Every return strengthens the habit. Every repetition deepens mastery. As you live in this new rhythm, others will notice a change in you. Your speech will become deliberate, your presence calm, your work precise. They will not understand the cause, but they will feel the difference. People are drawn to order because it radiates confidence. The world trusts those who govern themselves. Let me share another truth. Discipline redeems wasted years. The man who learns to structure his day gains time others lose to confusion. 10 minutes planned save an hour wasted. A year of disciplined action can achieve what a decade of drifting never will. You must learn to treat time as sacred substance. Do not spend it carelessly. Each hour is capital, invested only where it multiplies. The undisciplined man squanders time on trivialities. The disciplined man converts it into mastery. When discouragement whispers, remember this: persistence always outlives difficulty. Every obstacle yields to consistency. The mountain that defeats a hurried traveler crumbles beneath the steady foot of one who keeps pace. That is the secret of endurance, not speed, but rhythm. Say to yourself often, I persist until I prevail. I will finish what I begin. My routine is the proof of my faith. Each time you speak it, the habit deepens. Soon your mind will no longer debate action. It will act automatically according to purpose. The man who keeps his word to himself becomes unstoppable. Each promise kept strengthens the inner command. Each act of obedience builds spiritual muscle. When you can trust your own discipline, you fear no test, for you have mastered the greatest battlefield, the self. I tell you, this law can save not merely years, but lifetimes. Most men rise and fall in cycles because they never sustain order long enough to compound results. They start anew each year, mistaking movement for progress. But he who lives by rhythm never starts over. He ascends continuously. Discipline is not about doing more. It is about doing what matters most, without interruption, every day. Greatness is not born from bursts of effort, but from the constancy of devotion. Even your faith requires rhythm, daily renewal through reflection and gratitude. This is the essence of mastery. Purpose directs, discipline sustains, and gratitude completes. Together they form an unbreakable triad of power. At the close of each week, dedicate one evening to review your rhythm. Write your victories and your lapses. Celebrate obedience more than achievement. The world praises results. Heaven praises consistency. Your new life will not arrive in thunder. It will unfold quietly through the order you create. You will wake each morning knowing exactly what must be done, and peace will walk beside you as certainty. This is what others call grace, but grace is simply order perfected through love. Let this Christmas be your covenant with law, that you will no longer live by accident but by design. Each act, each thought, each hour will serve your purpose. And as you align with divine rhythm, miracles will seem ordinary, for they are merely the natural result of obedience. Now you have built foundation through faith, structure through discipline, and calm through rhythm. But order, once achieved, must overflow. The energy you harness must circulate outward into service, gratitude, and generosity, lest it stagnate. The next principle will open that channel, the law of gratitude and circulation, the law that turns renewal into abundance and discipline into prosperity. When a man learns to live by order and faith, a new force begins to stir within him, a quiet abundance that demands expression. That force is gratitude, and gratitude is the foundation of all circulation. It is the law that multiplies every good that is possessed. For what is gratitude, if not acknowledgement that the law has already begun its work? And what is acknowledgement, if not an invitation for more of the same? All abundance moves in rhythm. Nothing in nature hoards. The rivers flow, the tides return, the trees shed only to bloom again. The moment man clutches at possession, he interrupts the current that sustains his gain. Gratitude restores the flow. It is the invisible hand that keeps wealth alive, the spiritual motion that draws increase. Many have misunderstood prosperity. They believe it to be a matter of possession when in truth it is a matter of perception. Two men may hold the same coin. One clutches it in fear and calls it scarce. The other blesses it in gratitude and calls it seed. To the fearful man, that coin ends his story. To the grateful man, it begins it. The same object, yet the result is different because the vibration of mind is different. The law of gratitude states simply, whatever you appreciate appreciates, whatever you neglect declines. Every thought of thanks is a magnet for more to be thankful for. Every complaint is a command to decrease. This is no poetic fancy, it is mathematics of spirit. Infinite intelligence is a perfect accountant. It balances every ledger of thought. When you rise each morning and give thanks for what is, you prepare your mind to receive what will be. Gratitude opens the subconscious to cooperation with divine intelligence. It says, I trust the order of life. I acknowledge its fairness. In that acknowledgement, fear dissolves and the creative mind awakens. Think of Andrew Carnegie. He did not hoard his fortune. He circulated it through libraries, foundations, and schools. In his later years, his wealth expanded beyond even his control, for he had entered the current of increase. His giving was not obligation. It was law and motion. Consider Rockefeller, who tithed his first income before he had much to give. His gratitude for small beginnings became the foundation of his empire. Even Henry Ford, stern and silent as he was, circulated wealth through wages that raised the dignity of labor. These men understood that money is a living energy, not a static possession. It must move through service, through improvement, through goodwill, or it perishes. The man who gives more than he is paid for is already wealthy, though the coins have not yet reached his pocket. Each act of generous service is a deposit in the invisible bank of law, which pays compound interest in opportunities, ideas, and favor. The man who renders value beyond duty creates a surplus in the spiritual realm that must, by law, return to him multiplied. You must understand, gratitude is the organizing principle of prosperity. It aligns mind, heart, and effort with the rhythm of abundance. Where there is appreciation, there is order. Where there is resentment, there is disorder. Begin tonight with a simple practice, the circle of gratitude. Before you sleep, name 3 blessings received this day and 3 acts of service you gave. Write them in a notebook. Tomorrow morning, read them aloud and say, "Thank you for the law that multiplies these acts." This exercise trains your subconscious to see life through the lens of increase. Within weeks, your perception will change. Within months, your circumstances will follow. For the man who lives in gratitude never feels lack. Even in challenge, he says, "This too instructs me." Even in loss, he whispers, "Something greater is forming." And because his vibration is faith instead of fear, he remains in alignment with opportunity. I tell you a secret that few will ever grasp. Gratitude is wealth in its mental form. It is the cause. Money is only the effect. The grateful man is already rich because his mind has entered the vibration of abundance. The ungrateful man is already poor because his mind has shut the door on supply. You may say, how can I be grateful while I struggle? My answer, be grateful for the law itself. Give thanks that you know how to think, that you possess a mind that can be directed. Gratitude is not denial, it is dominion. When you give thanks for what little you have, you are not deceiving yourself. You are commanding increase. Say often, I give freely, I receive abundantly. Gratitude multiplies all I touch. Speak it not as hope, but as law. For gratitude and faith are brothers. They move together. The grateful heart believes that good is present even before it appears. Look again at the world around you. Nature wastes nothing, but she withholds nothing either. The tree gives fruit without counting. The river gives water without condition. It is only man, in his ignorance, who interrupts circulation by fear of loss. But loss is impossible in the mind that gives. Every great enterprise thrives on this principle. The merchant prospers because he serves. The teacher grows because he shares. The inventor gains because he contributes. The moment any of them begin to hoard, their growth ceases. Even knowledge, if hidden, decays. It is circulation that keeps all good alive. When you begin to practice generosity, not from duty but from joy, you enter a higher vibration of thought. You will feel lighter, freer, stronger. The grip of anxiety loosens. You realize that wealth is not something to own, but something to channel. You become the vessel through which divine abundance flows. Each morning, as part of your hour of dominion, take 1 minute to ask yourself, whom shall I serve today? The answer will come. It may be a kind word, an act of assistance, a gesture of understanding. These are the true currencies of prosperity. And as you circulate them, material wealth follows, as shadow follows substance. Do not confuse generosity with waste. Giving must be guided by wisdom, just as breathing must be guided by rhythm. Reckless spending is not circulation, it is disorder. True giving obeys law. It blesses both giver and receiver. Before each act of giving, say within, let this increase all it touches. That thought alone harmonizes your intention with divine intelligence. Many ask why their fortunes seem to rise and fall. It is because they treat gratitude as a mood rather than a method. Gratitude must be habitual, deliberate, rhythmic. It must become as consistent as breathing. You cannot inhale once and expect to live. Neither can you thank once and expect continued supply. The man who practices daily gratitude becomes magnetized. People enjoy his company. They feel uplifted in his presence. Doors open for him, not because of charm, but because his vibration is harmonious. Gratitude eliminates envy, and where envy dies, goodwill multiplies. Let us be practical. When you receive payment, pause before spending. Look at the money and say, thank you for this proof that law works through me. When you pay a bill, do not curse it. Bless it. Say, this payment blesses the hands that served me and opens the way for more. These quiet declarations turn ordinary transactions into spiritual circulation. Even the simple act of breathing can remind you of this law. Every inhalation is receiving. Every exhalation is giving. Hold your breath too long and you suffocate. Give it away freely and life sustains you. The same applies to every form of wealth: money, love, opportunity, wisdom. To keep it, you must circulate it. You will soon notice that the more you give, the more ideas and opportunities flow to you. It is as though heaven rewards the generous by entrusting them with more to distribute. This is because divine intelligence seeks efficient channels. The universe does not send wealth to the fearful, for they would hoard it. It sends it to the faithful, for they will circulate it. Write these words where you can see them. I am a channel of divine circulation. Through me, good flows to all. Let them remind you that you are not merely a receiver, but a distributor of abundance. Gratitude also heals the heart. The man who practices it cannot remain bitter. He may remember pain, but he interprets it as instruction. He blesses those who opposed him, for they trained his endurance. He thanks the failures that disciplined his pride. Every negative becomes positive under the alchemy of gratitude. If you live by this law, others will begin to speak of you as lucky. But luck is merely law recognized by faith. The grateful man attracts blessings so naturally that others call it chance. Yet it is not chance, it is choice repeated daily until it becomes nature. To deepen your practice, spend one day each week in what I call the fast of complaint. For 24 hours, refuse to criticize, complain, or condemn. Replace every negative word with thanks. This single discipline will reveal how much energy you once wasted in resistance. By the end of that day, your spirit will feel light and magnetic. And as your gratitude grows, your service will expand. You will find yourself seeking ways to add value, to improve your work, uplift others, and contribute meaningfully. This is the highest proof of divine favor. For God entrusts greater tasks only to those who have mastered appreciation of small ones. The circle of giving and receiving must remain unbroken. Do not let pride prevent you from receiving gifts, compliments, or assistance. To reject them is to stop the current of circulation. Accept graciously, for in doing so you allow others to experience the joy of giving. Every great fortune, every harmonious home, every peaceful mind rests upon this law. Gratitude is the atmosphere of faith. Circulation is its motion. Together they sustain all increase. This understanding will save you not years, but decades. The man who lives without gratitude spends his life chasing accumulation. The man who lives with gratitude already possesses abundance before it arrives. One struggles for wealth, the other attracts it through vibration of joy. As you practice, others will notice something strange. Your presence itself will bring calm. You will speak less of problems and more of blessings. Your eyes will carry light. People will say, I do not know why, but I feel better near you. That is because you have become a walking circulation of peace. At the close of each day, review your circle of gratitude. Ask, where did I give? What did I receive? What can I bless anew? Then rest, knowing that you have obeyed the law that governs all prosperity. Now, gratitude prepares the soul for its final evolution, reflection. For when a man has learned to receive and give, to act and rest, to serve and thank, he must finally learn to understand. Reflection transforms abundance into wisdom, and wisdom into peace. Let us now move to the final revelation, the law of reflection and mastery, the crown of all success principles, where the organized life becomes the enlightened one. When the noise of striving has quieted, when a man has learned to serve, to give, and to live in gratitude, there remains one final mastery, the mastery of thought through reflection. It is the crowning law of the organized mind, the still point around which all progress turns. For reflection is the soul's conversation with infinite intelligence. It is the daily communion where wisdom is born, and without it, every achievement fades into mere activity. The world is full of men who labor endlessly but seldom think. They rise, rush, and retire, believing that movement equals advancement. Yet without reflection, their days blur into years, their lessons go unlearned, and their power remains scattered. A man may accomplish much in appearance and yet move in circles, never progressing toward his higher purpose. Reflection straightens that circle into a line. It transforms repetition into refinement. Every master I have known practiced reflection as sacred ritual. Lincoln, in the quiet hours of night, reviewed his words and actions with the precision of a craftsman studying his tools. Edison, after every experiment, paused to ask, "What law have I uncovered in this?" Rockefeller, though presiding over vast fortunes, spent his evenings in calm consideration of decisions past and lessons gained. They understood that reflection is not idle thought. It is deliberate study of experience through the eyes of law. Without reflection, success becomes mechanical. The man who merely performs routines eventually becomes servant to his own habit. Reflection restores dominion over habit by extracting meaning from it. Each day you must ask, what did I learn? Where did I drift? What principle governed my success or error today? In these questions lies the secret of mastery. The mind is like fertile soil. Experience drops seeds into it daily. Without reflection, those seeds remain scattered and wild. With reflection, the gardener of thought selects which seeds to water, which to remove, and which to plant anew. Thus, reflection organizes the harvest of life. You may think reflection is a luxury for quiet days, but it is the foundation of steady power. The man who never pauses eventually breaks. The man who reflects daily repairs his strength each night. Even 10 minutes of honest contemplation before sleep can save 10 years of confusion. For what others repeat by ignorance, the reflective man corrects by insight. The law of reflection begins with honesty. To see yourself without excuse is the highest courage. Most men look at the world and say, "I was wronged." The reflective man looks within and says, "I have learned." The difference between guilt and wisdom is reflection. Guilt punishes, reflection transforms. Begin tonight a discipline I call the evening return. When the day is done, sit in quiet and breathe slowly. Take a single sheet of paper and write 3 simple lines. What went well, what needs correction, and what truth you discovered. Do not write essays, write essence. This small record becomes a map of your evolution. Over weeks and months, patterns will emerge. You will see that nothing was wasted, not even your mistakes. Lincoln once said that he learned more from his defeats than his victories. Reflection converts defeat into education. When you study your failure without self-condemnation, you uncover its gift. Perhaps it revealed impatience, pride, or fear. Each, once recognized, loses power. Reflection removes the sting from error and leaves only the instruction. In my years of study, I found that every man who rose to greatness possessed this one habit of introspection. They all understood the law. Wisdom is applied memory. Experience alone teaches nothing. It is the reflection upon experience that births understanding. The lessons you refuse to examine will repeat until you do. Reflection also refines gratitude. When you recall each day's blessings with awareness, you multiply their worth. You begin to notice divine order where once you saw only coincidence. You see that people entered your life at precise moments, that delays protected you, that losses redirected you. The reflective mind no longer accuses life. It admires it. In reflection, you converse silently with infinite intelligence. Ask questions not as demands, but as dialogues. What was I meant to see here? How can I serve more wisely? What would thou have me do next? Answers may not come in that moment, but they will arrive in thought, in dream, in sudden intuition. The law never leaves a sincere question unanswered. Some resist reflection because it confronts them with their own neglect. Yet this confrontation is mercy. To face truth willingly saves a man from years of blindness. The man who reviews his day prevents his downfall before it forms. The man who refuses to reflect must learn through pain what he could have learned through thought. Do not fear solitude. It is the workshop of mastery. In solitude, the mind resets to its original clarity. The noise of others, the demands of duty, and the distractions of the world blur thought. Reflection gathers it again into focus. 10 minutes alone in sincere reflection can restore what 10 hours of labor scattered. When practiced consistently, reflection organizes your entire inner world. You begin to see your thoughts not as random, but as arranged forces. You identify which thoughts produce strength and which drain it. You remove what no longer serves your purpose, as a gardener removes weeds. This is mental hygiene, the cleansing of the mind through daily review. Each night repeat this affirmation. Each day I grow wiser. Each night I grow calmer. Reflection refines my power. Let these words guide your subconscious into peaceful analysis. You will find that even as you sleep, your mind continues to organize impressions and draw meaning from them. In the morning, insights will appear ready and clear, as if gifted from the unseen. Reflection is also the foundation of forgiveness. You cannot truly release resentment until you understand its lesson. When you reflect upon those who hurt you, ask, what strength did this teach me? And gratitude will replace bitterness. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is acknowledgement that you have outgrown the injury. There is another law hidden within reflection, the law of relearning. Truth must be revisited to be retained. Great men never stop reading the same books or listening to the same wisdom, for each return reveals new depth. The mind grows, and with growth, the same truth speaks differently. When you reread Think and Grow Rich or revisit a speech that once moved you, you discover layers that were invisible before. That is reflection expanding comprehension. Make it your custom to return often to great works, not for novelty, but for nourishment. Each reading is a new conversation between your present self and the eternal principles of law. You will never exhaust truth, but truth will always exhaust your error. Reflection also strengthens faith. When you review your past and see how divine order guided every step, doubt weakens. You begin to trust that unseen hand more completely. The same force that carried you through storms will carry you through what lies ahead. Gratitude and reflection together make faith unshakable. Do not wait for grand occasions to practice reflection. Do it in small moments while walking, eating, or resting. Let each pause become a classroom. Ask quietly, what is this moment teaching me? Such living awareness transforms ordinary days into continuous revelation. If you wish to master your life, master your evenings. The mind before sleep is most impressionable. What you dwell upon in that hour becomes the blueprint for the subconscious. End each day with order and peace, and you will rise each morning renewed and directed. The reflective man sleeps soundly because he has reconciled his thoughts before rest. The unreflective man carries his chaos into the night. His subconscious, burdened by unexamined worry, works against him in sleep. His dreams disturb, his body tires, his mornings begin in confusion. The reflective man, however, entrusts his mind to infinite intelligence each night, saying, I release this day to law, guide me to wiser action tomorrow. Thus he awakens refreshed, guided, and assured. You must also reflect on your purpose regularly. Even the clearest aim can blur through time if not renewed. Each month, read your definite chief aim aloud. Ask yourself, does this still reflect my highest truth? If it does, recommit. If it does not, refine. The mind that reviews purpose never drifts long. Reflection converts success into wisdom and wisdom into serenity. The man who reflects does not chase approval, he seeks understanding. He measures his progress not by applause, but by alignment with law. This serenity is the final proof of mastery. Others will sense it in you, your speech will slow, your words will carry weight. You will no longer rush to argue or impress. Your calm will be contagious. People will come to you not for excitement, but for clarity. You will become, in essence, a living reflection, a mirror through which others glimpse their own potential. To live reflectively is to live intentionally. No hour passes unnoticed, no lesson escapes recognition. Even your leisure becomes purposeful, for rest itself becomes part of rhythm. You cease dividing life into work and spirit, for in truth they are one. All activity becomes sacred when guided by awareness. Do not fear repetition in practice. Each reflection deepens the groove of order within the mind. Each self-examination strengthens humility and heightens confidence, for humility sees truth clearly, and confidence acts upon it. The truly wise man never feels finished. He feels refined. As you master reflection, you will experience a subtle shift. Events that once seemed random will appear orchestrated. You will see how each difficulty aligned perfectly with your growth. You will understand that nothing was accidental, that every experience carried a message. The reflective mind reads those messages and turns them into mastery. I tell you this truth. Peace is not found in the absence of struggle, but in the understanding of it. Reflection gives that understanding. When you know that every challenge serves your evolution, you cease to resist life, you cooperate with it, you rise each morning not asking, why me, but saying, through me. In time, your reflection will evolve into meditation, a wordless awareness of law moving through all things. You will sense guidance before you ask for it, answers before you formulate questions. You will no longer need to struggle for wisdom. It will unfold naturally within you because you have prepared the mind as its proper instrument. At this level, thought and prayer become one. Every decision, every silence, every breath becomes communion with infinite intelligence. You no longer seek signs, you embody them. You become living evidence of divine order operating through human discipline. This is mastery, the unity of mind, purpose, and law. The man who reaches it no longer fears loss or delay, for he understands that all movement, whether forward or still, serves progress. His peace cannot be disturbed, for it is rooted in understanding. I have walked among such men, and I tell you they radiate quiet strength. They do not boast of enlightenment, they live it. Their eyes carry serenity. Their manner inspires trust. They give without depletion, act without hurry, and think without confusion. They have organized their inner world so completely that outer chaos cannot touch them. You too may become such a man. Begin with 10 minutes of reflection each night. Extend it to 20. Then make every action during the day a continuation of that reflection. Live in a state of thoughtful awareness. In time, reflection will cease to be an act. It will become your nature. Now let us return to where this journey began. You were told that this Christmas marks a second chance. Through the laws you have learned, preparation, surrender, faith, discipline, gratitude, and now reflection, you have rebuilt your foundation. You have seen that every loss was instruction, that every delay was preparation, that every silence was guidance. You have learned that law is not distant. It is intimate. It moves through breath, thought, and rhythm. Tonight, as you close your eyes, practice the evening return. Reflect on the year past without sorrow. Name what was gained, not what was lost. Thank the unseen hand that guided you through misunderstanding. Forgive yourself fully. Say quietly, I am not who I was. I have learned, I am guided, I am at peace. Then visualize the year ahead, not as a burden of goals, but as a field awaiting cultivation. Picture yourself rising early, acting calmly, speaking with purpose, giving freely, learning daily. See every day of the coming year unfolding under law's perfect rhythm, and as you drift towards sleep, repeat, each night I grow wiser. Each morning I rise renewed. My peace is my power. This, my friend, is the true gift of Christmas, not wrapped in paper, but revealed in understanding. God's greatest blessing is not a miracle of circumstance, but the revelation of order. The second chance you sought has already been granted. It is the chance to live by law, consciously, deliberately, gratefully. So end this day in reflection and begin tomorrow in purpose. Let your thoughts be measured, your actions decisive, your gratitude continual. The year ahead will not surprise you with blessings, it will obey you with them. For the man who thinks with order walks with heaven. The man who reflects daily saves decades of wandering. And the man who lives in peace, having mastered himself, commands all things beneath it. That is your inheritance. That is your second chance. This Christmas truly changes everything.